Hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hi Shreya. Good to see you.
Good. The audio, this is the first time I've activated audio video. It's okay?
Splendid
It's
to see
okay?
you. Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So good to see you. Oh, so long, man. So long.
I know. Let me just invite the others.
Please take your time. So we'll just like hang. All right.
Hi. Can I be heard?
Hi.
Can I be heard and seen?
Clearly.
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. I'm a bit apprehensive of this whole thing because this is my first time on Instagram live chat. Is it your first time too, Shrayragi? Oh, cool.
Me too.
So very good. So we will be together in our nervousness.
So the first time I gave microphone. I allowed the microphone on. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we both can be heard clearly and seen clearly, right, Ina?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Good. Nice. So this goes live
now
immediately.
I'm just trying.
Okay, fine.
Yes. Yes. You have no requests. Now I'm trying to add.
Nirmal.
Why is it not giving me the search? Let me see. Add Nirmal.
You got to teach me all this.
Yeah, some sort of setting.
Some sort of coaching is enough. Yeah, is actually needed. Actually, the YouTube video which you sent was very useful.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
I have to send it on to others also so that they know.
Yeah. I feel I should tap this angle. You know, I've not done this so far as a curator or as an artist or as a teacher for that matter.
Yeah, maybe for teaching. It's so funky actually, the possibilities that.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Wonderful to see all of you together. Thank you so much for being here. And,
thank you.
Yes, it's lovely. Thank you, Apurva. Thank you, Nirmal and Shrayragi, for joining me on this midweek chat. And I think that, yes, all of us keep learning in these little boxes that we are split into online. But it's so splendid to be together. So for everybody who's joining here, Apurva Kulkarni is a curator and academic and many things besides that. And it's such an honor to have you here, Apurva, today. Nirmal Kulkarni is a herpetologist and a conservationist besides being a wildlife photographer. And Shrayragi, my dear friend, is an artist and works with textile besides having been the person who introduced me to art activism in Goa. So thank you all for being here today.
Thank you.
And I think the context of our discussion today is very much tied around Mandalas for Mollem, which is the project and exhibition that Apurva, you have just curated. And the kind of power that comes through from all the works that the artists have put in. And I think this idea on our minds that there is something that all of us as citizens have to do and can do is something that's leading these visions. So to begin with, Apurva, how did this idea come about and how did you start this project?
First of all, thank you for having me. Lena, how does one get rid of notifications when they come on screen? I'm sorry. Thank you for having me, Lena. It's a privilege, because curator is a much bandied about term these days in our circles. But to be truly an authentic curator is rare. And you in Goa are phenomenal with what you have done. The kind of research which you go into before every project is truly heartwarming. It's got heart in the right place. So
thank you.
Yeah. So Mandalas for Mollem, like you said just now, a couple of minutes ago, it is, as citizens, what can we do? It was a question of helplessness on my part. I'm very much an urbanized person, very much living in the urban belt. I have of course, we live in a nice little orchard, in a village in Chikal, and we have the natural surroundings around us. We don't live in the city. But having said that, in my head, in my mind space, I'm still very much urbanized. My connect with this is not there. But it doesn't mean that it does not exist. It's just that for whatever reasons, I'm living the kind of life I'm living. But what's happening in Mollem, what is being planned there, was so, the idea of it is so degrading. It's so devastating that there was a pull within me to do something about it. So in January, when idea started incubating, I knew immediately what it would be titled, what the thrust would be, almost immediately. And I talked to Rajeshri, and then she said, yes, and we can go ahead. We started even doing a timeline, because I knew it would take time to research and do this. But basically, what I'm trying to say, the idea came from a place of feeling, not so much of thought.
Yeah.
It's a feeling. And so, and I'm always directed to, in all my endeavors, from a Jungian point of view, analytical psychology. I use that as my scaffolding, or something to, it's my vertebral column. It is what holds everything together. So I like doing works where the endeavors which don't come from the position of the ego, from the analytical psychological point of view, not from thoughts, but from feelings, from a tone which is based on feelings. So I don't think much about that. I mean, I'm not seen as being very, very political in the kind of things which I've done. Probably people are surprised that I have done this, but I don't really care. You don't have to be this or that or something else to feel strongly for what's happening at Mollem. You need to be a citizen. I don't have children. We didn't want children. But that doesn't mean, I can say, okay, to hell with the earth, since I'm moving off. We have a much more bigger responsibility. We have, so many things which we need to do. So it came from a feeling is basically what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And almost all my curatorial endeavors, whether it was called organizing exhibitions back in 1985, we were not curating that. We were just organizing it. In a place which had got no infrastructure, no awareness, and no support of any kind. Forget financial. There was no encouragement to do this. So having come from there, in the last years, I have been particularly active mostly in teaching, or actually from 2010 to now. Quite a few curatorial projects, a lot of teaching of 31 years, and art appreciation courses and art history courses and mentoring nowadays one-on-one. So that's where Mandalas Mollem came about, the feeling that I need to do something about it. Yeah. So I invite artists in April, environmentalists, teachers, architects. I'm calling them artists as an overall term, even the environmentalists, because I believe everyone is an artist. So I had this idea. I didn't tell them that it was going to be on Mollem. I just hinted that it is about an issue which is urgent to us, which requires immediate attention. The environmentalists knew. I think Nirmal told. Yes, I think I told Madhura. They were the crux. They were the ones who could educate us. They were the ones who could, tell us how to go about it. Like I said, for me, it's come from a place of feeling. I did my research, but I would not call myself, oh, I know everything about this, or assume that God. No, I'm maybe an armchair activist. I'm your basic urban boy, that kind of a thing. But that should not stop me from doing what I want to do. I feel like doing. So here we are. And then when I invited artists and I put the entire proposal to them after a series of presentations by Madhura and then finally by me. And that's it. That's how we did. Do you?
Oh, that's splendid.
Yeah.
I think that for everybody who is watching, you can access the link to the exhibition also on the Altamira website,
Yes.
and also in the profile, I think. So
Yes.
we will also add the link later to comments in this discussion, so you will be able to access it. And that's a wonderful start, Apurva. Now, just to go into a little bit of the process, perhaps if I can ask you, Shrayragi, once this discussion began, how was it for you interacting with this entire group of people who had come together? And it's different because it's online, isn't it? And how did you go about doing your work? What was your response?
It was very depressing initially. I think the thinking took a long time to translate into feeling for something like this, because there was so many other distractions. This was in Jan, where COVID second wave was picking up, and everyone had personal issues going on. So the process was just only anchored in feeling. Eventually, that was the only driving force, because as an artist, I use a lot of color. All my work is vivid. There's something that I'm, instinctively drawn to color. And my Mole doll is one of the most monotone creations I've made in my life. So it came from a place of depression, but also hope. What was for me most binding was the fact that though we were such a diverse group, everyone was anchored in feeling for the concept rather than using your intellect to read through it, because we were dealing on an emotional level personally in so many different ways. So this kind of helped channel that, like, it really was anxiety at some level into something that was for me, I find it, my work is not my style at all. This piece does not reflect me in my normal state, but I find I want to add something. Nirmal does a lot of technical work, but I see him as a poet. His canvases are his photography, his artistic expression, but his words are so inspiring. Nirmal.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I think that would held everything together.
Yes. And I think that, actually words and texts are something very important going through the entire compilation of work. In fact, so many of the artists, participants have given such beautiful pieces to read along with the work, and it really touches and makes you think and question in so many ways. But yes, I think I also find Nirmal's work extremely inspiring, and it's lovely to be able to connect today. So Nirmal, to ask you a little bit about your experience, of course, of this exhibition, but also what are the largest questions now with Mole, and why do we really need to conserve this space? What is the importance of of this region to our entire, survival in this part of the world?
I must begin by saying that me and Apurva are not related. We share the same surname. The only other relation that we have is, or are rather connected with each other, is both of us love steaks. Yeah. And that connection goes a really long way. There's been a lot of instances where we've sat together, just spoken. I mean, that is probably one side of Apurva that very few people know, and I would have loved to keep it a secret, but I had to say it today. And it is this connection that everybody has with really small aspects like these, whether it is snakes for some people, birds for some people, flowing streams for some people, but all of us staying in Goa or around Goa, visiting Goa for that matter, from anywhere in India. I have not seen a tourist or a visitor or a person staying in Goa who has not been to Mollem. Every single person, whether he or she comes to Goa, has been to the Mollem National Park, has seen the Dudhsagar waterfalls. Leaving everything aside, I can put in a whole lot of technical research papers and, blurt out names and species and what is it in the entire country. But for us, as simple Goans anywhere, Mollem is a symbol. The Dudhsagar is basically as much as an identity for us as much as the Mandovi. So we fought for the Madai for about 20 years and are still fighting. And the Dudhsagar is equally important. If there is something that will change the way the Dudhsagar waterfalls will look, or in a way that the forests of Mollem will look, and this change, whatever it is going to be an irreversible change, then that is a problem that all of us think is very serious. As a researcher, it becomes very important for us that we speak less and show more through technical papers, research articles and documentation and things like that. And which is why at some point of time, I try and, put in art and words to basically move away from that aspect and get into showcasing in a different way. I think Mollem is at this point of stage, and thankfully not to the work that we as researchers do, but to the work the whole that has done, and we must give credit to them.
Yes.
Artists, the whole Amche Mole gang, there are so many of them. I think this campaign, or whatever that we can call it, this citizens movement is now gone beyond just Mollem and India. Mollem is now an international issue, and it is an issue that is basically a flagship issue, which there can be 100 different Mollems like us, and the underlying thing that all of us together, in fact, even when during the residency, it's one thing that has remained with me, and what Apurva said, and which is why Apurva, being Apurva, is amazing, is that we are not against anybody. We are not against any government. We are not against any individual. We are not against anyone. But we are for Mollem. That is very important.
Yeah.
If you see art, if you see the artworks that everyone is created, there is concern. There is love. There is a lot of pain. There is no hatred. Yeah. We are not against anyone, whether we are researchers or whether we are poets or artists or whoever. And that is the magic of Mollem. It is such a place that I don't know if you have had the time to walk through Mollem's amazing forest, but if once you do, one keeps going there again and again. It is that magic that the place has. In terms of biodiversity, it is unique. It has a whole lot of species. Almost every year we have species that we see that we do not know what they are, where they are from. They are new species. They are new to science. There's some amazing, ecosystems in there. The birthplace of, probably 100+ streams, and each one of them having their own names because we worship them. Sacred groves, of course. I mean, the list is very long, and the campaign itself is slowly by slowly coming out with all this data as well as really beautiful stories that they create all the time. But the underlying thing is this, that Mollem for now is as much of an identity for Goa as much as the Mandovia. And Dudhsagar basically is its crown.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. That's beautifully put. It is a symbol and it's part of this identity. And I don't think that it's a choice to lose it or let it be destroyed because of infrastructure or whatever. But this is a constant question, isn't it? This sort of conflict or the dichotomy between government and nature, development and the environment. And it's made into this dichotomy that becomes complex for people to deal with. To go back to you, Apurva, how do you envision the role of citizens, of artists, of participants? In what way does bringing together an exhibition extend this feeling and these ideas that we're all looking for right now?
Let me put it this way, that when it comes in the situation we are particularly in, that of the pandemic, when we are locked down, we are not able to go about our daily lives in the normal way possible, the online becomes even more powerful. It becomes even more enduring and all present, all around you, because that seems to be the only way we are connected. Yeah. So I think for me, when I got the idea of Mandalas the Mall, I just started doing a lot of research. I looked at the Mollem online, website. I stumbled upon the Amche Mole, fantastic people, what they had done, and that was so inspirational. I realized then so much of the strength comes from there. That when an ordinary citizen, and the way they have channeled Amche Mole, Save Mole, the ring leaders and such, the way they've channeled the various offerings, I would say, by scientific, whether it's poetic, whether it's text, whether it is painting, whether it's educational, whether it's presentation, any which way, cutting across all things. It is the citizen who comes. But all this is possible, actually, more so because it's happening online, is my way of looking at it. Okay, I know not everybody has got good connections, internet connections, and again, it is from a very, very, urban point of view I'm talking about. But having said and done that, there is still that outreach is huge. I mean, they have tens and thousands of followers already. That's remarkable. Yeah. That means something essential is taking place, and then you have all kinds of offerings over there which completely overwhelming. So I think what each one of us is doing is just going to add more and more to that. We are offering more and more and more. Yes, and now at one point, while this was already very much in progress, Mandalas from Mollem, and the artists were almost finishing the work, and we were in the process of submitting it. One of the Mollem group, Swabhu, got in touch with me, and he was very thrilled about what we had done. And I felt a bit embarrassed because I did not put hashtags of Save Mollem. This is because I felt that maybe, I don't want to piggyback on what they had done. It's easy to just put a hashtag and say what we have done. I didn't want to do that. And I told him, he said on the opposite. He said, no. It's good you've done that. Everyone should be doing something. So I felt a bit relieved, but I also felt, okay, I've done the right thing. We have now done this. Now we can get along. And I had a quite a long meeting. I was with them yesterday. We talked of many things, but also, now, I think you as a curator will like this, Lina. I've yet to break the news to the to the Mandalas, as I'm calling them these days, that I have decided that they know all the information is all there on the website. Textual, visual, everything is there on the website. Plus, there are other things which the artists have done, which is not there on the website, like painting, works of art on trees, on dolls, and other things. Quite a few of the works are not shared on the website. Now, I have told the Amche Molle, now take this, and now you all curate this. I'm passing the baton. Take it. I think you will appreciate this. I have done the way I have looked at it this way, and I'm going to seek the involvement and the permission of each of the artists in this in Mandalas from Mollem, and say that please let's give it to them. Let them take it.
Lovely.
They are going to package it and send it out, because I love what they have done. They are going to do a unique take on it, and we will be there. And I think, and we can, that's more importantly, this is where I answer to your question. I know it's a very long-winded answer, but more importantly, we are sustaining the pressure. We are sustaining the attention, which is required.
Yeah.
We have to sustain that. So even if it means featuring 3 artists a month from Mandalas for Mollem, among the other things Amche Mollem is doing, I think it will be forceful. We can look deeply at I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm looking forward to it with great, curiosity. I think they're magicians, and I just want to give it to them and say, run with it now. Let's see, how you take it. Just like how the artists took all what they offered each other, because they also did presentations. Supriya did, Nirmal did, Namrata did. Namrata is an architect. Supriya is a designer, an animator, a storyteller. Nirmal, we all know what Nirmal is. So all of them did presentations. Not just me. Not just only one voice was groaning on and on. All of us were there in it together. So I think as we are crippled in a way, we can't take this out on the street, but we can take it out on the screens, not on the streets, maybe. From the streets to the screen. That's what we are doing. And we are keeping the fire alive. You can call it a protest exhibition. You may call it a political exhibition. You may call it a non-political exhibition. You may suddenly say, well, Apurva has suddenly become political. Wow, where was he all this while? You can say what you want. The question is, it comes from a place of feeling. If I don't do anything, you will say, he's not doing anything. If I do something, you're saying he has grown political horns. You can't win. And I don't want to. I want to do what I've always been doing. Love what I'm doing, and I feel for it, so I'm doing it. I put it across to the artist. Nobody is holding a gun to their heads, right? I did this entire presentation on the evolution of the motif of the circle, and you know this, Leah. The circle is embedded in our collective unconscious from 35,000 years ago, right? From petroglyphs. So till now, it's all there. I took a huge, I showed them as many examples I could of star charts and maps, all of them involving the use of the circle in some way or the other. And finally, even talking about the Tibetan mandalas. Because from the psychological point of view, Jung has written an entire essay, an entire book on mandalas, complete with mandala symbolism, complete with examples from case studies of how it helped the person get better. So I came from that point of view, from that source. Because I had done years ago a personal project called Mandalas for Medusa. Okay, my connection goes back there, because I love Medusa. I'm just in awe of what she was and what happened to her. And so I've done that. I knew that it personally helped me a lot, therapeutically. I come from a place that art is medicinal. Whether you agree or not is not the thing. The question is, for this project, I did not force these opinions down their throats. Maybe they can correct me if I'm wrong here. I did this, and then they took that and they ran with it in so many beautiful directions. Like one reporter asked me, she said, because I said that in the opening, I said, if I were to do a mandala, it would be one of rage, I said. It would be one of anger, it wouldn't be benign, it wouldn't be calm, it wouldn't be peaceful. It wouldn't be like what Naina has done, Bandekar, that huge, beautiful scroll painting like a tanka, or it wouldn't be calm and peaceful and yet hard-hitting like Alok's mandala. But I would have done something like what Cornelia has done, and Cornelia has done it so effectively. Yeah. So similarly. Yeah. So but it would have only then been about just like how Mandalas or Medusa was about Medusa and one person doing it. Now this time it had to be all of us. And as many people as I could. And here, this is what is important. I invited artists, environmentalists, poets, teachers, architects, whoever were there. Some of them could be part of it, some of them couldn't. And they politely said no for various commitments and other issues. And then after that, I put an open call. Because I am unaware of many artists, of many works of art, especially the younger ones, but also some of the older ones. And I said, come, apply for it. And between you and me, and since everybody is listening, I was ready to take almost everybody into it. Because who am I? I just needed those applications to understand what your work is all about, understand who you are, what makes you tick. Can I be heard? Can I be seen? Okay, because there was some internet. So I feel, I don't know if I answered your question. I think I rambled a bit. Sorry about that. So that's, we have taken it from the streets to the screens for now. But let's hope the situation gets better so we can both do it on the streets and on the screens as well.
Right. So there is a comment here. In fact, someone says that online is surely a democratic space and reaches out, connects really wider and faster. Given that the intention is to connect and not just keep it closed and ambiguous, what's your view? Perhaps, I don't know, Shrayragi, would you like to, comment on that, or Nirmal? It isn't closed and ambiguous in that sense. It's really, really, reaching out. I think we already discussed this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, it's a fair point. Eventually, if we were to have a public art show with this, would appeal get to a lot of wider audience than you can on the internet. So I agree that in a way it's still exclusive.
Right.
But this is the best at this point, and it's just another chapter in a really fat book. So it's going to morph with time, and I'm really glad that the pieces are being passed around so that it can be translated differently. I think that's a very democratic concept. I mean, I feel ownership of my piece, but it belongs to Mollem. It doesn't really belong to me in that sense, So if you're working with Mollem, go with it. So ambiguous works in sometimes also, because it doesn't tie you down in boxes. You can be more organic in a way. So let's see. For now, it's the best possible.
If I may add something here, Lina? Can I add something?
Yes, please go ahead, Apurva.
There is an angle. We don't really look at it, but it's very important. I think if Mandalas or Mollem would not have been possible the way I did it now, online and everything, we could have done only a bit of it. If this was going to be offline, it would have been an expensive affair.
Right.
Very. Yeah.
Right.
Where do I get the money from?
Of course.
You know how difficult arts to get money, and for an art which is remotely even about protest, People are going to shy away. And where am I going to get the money from? How can I invite artists and say, okay, let's put in that much money to sustain everything? I can take curatorial fee. I can take mentoring fees, which I have done. For my previous residency, it was a paid residency. Not this one. This one was completely free of any, cash transaction. No funding,
Right.
taking money, nothing. That's very important. But I know one thing. It would have been very difficult to do it during a non-pandemic time. I could have done it to a certain extent of having the residency online because it cuts down on costs and meetings and everybody is clued in. Though even there, I would like curatorial endeavors. I like to do it, in galleries and have these presentations and actually meet people. Like when I did, Kama Interrupted, it was re-looking at the Kama Sutra contemporary way. We involved all the artists. We had meetings. We had, we did all that. But here, it would have been very difficult. It would have been very expensive. I would then have to very unwillingly give up on that idea. Maybe, I don't know. But I know that it is possible. So even now, to take it to the gallery is an expensive affair. To publish a little catalog, opening day expenses, seeing that everything is smooth, pedestals for certain of the things, all that, what it is. A lot of the behind very few people are aware of. You see the show and you don't see the blood, sweat and tears behind it. So I just needed, I think this is a very important point too. Everything is online. In a way, ironically, this has helped this thing to actually come out there, So.
Right. Unfortunately for us, the pandemic was also the time when the policy makers, let's say the people in authority, thought that they could make decisions very quickly when people were sort of out of the way, maybe. And that's how all these bills were passed and everything sort of surged ahead. Right when we were all shut in lockdowns in our homes, and so that is another part of this. But I think that you're very right. What Shreya you said and Apurva, I think that there is definitely. I mean, there's a lot of meaning in it. Nirmal, to come back to you then, and I'd like to ask you about your own work, which you have, in fact, in the exhibition. And what was the inspiration for that, and how did you come about it? So this is the artist I'm asking.
There's been two things actually. I've sort of grown up walking in different parts of Mollem National Park and Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuary. Many of us might not know, but there was one or two villages inside the national park which were relocated. People voluntarily moved out. It's a very big thing for somebody who is there in a remote village like this or anywhere to move out, out of the forest. They've given, it's a sacrifice that one makes. I have been witness to that sacrifice. It's not easy. The other aspect that happened was that Mollem has this stuff which is called a ring road, which again is like a mandala. It's around. You must go on the ring road. It's amazing. You go in from the main gate and you go in from about 80 to 100 meters, and you go, round and round this sort of spiral ridgeline, and you reach a point where there is an amazing watchtower. And then you see the entire wildlife sanctuary. I have sat at that place and seen another round circle, which is the sunset from Mollem. It is fabulous. It is something that one basically sees. These two aspects were, when one does this, and Mollem has some beautiful cane forests, we call it cane breaks actually, besides other aspects of vegetation. But when one sees this, these impacts were always there on me, and I realized that these forests or these things which I grew in had some sort of a forest deity. I wouldn't have put it into any definition of what that deity was or whatever, but I knew that there was something there, especially when one walked into that abandoned village, when one walked into this sort of area, and which is phase one. And then there is phase two, which I went into Mollem just after we realized that trees were going to be cut. And what happens in every forest, and I've seen this in a whole lot of other areas also, is that the first thing is that a survey is done. And after that survey is done, trees are marked. They are marked first with a yellow or a red dot. And then there is a nail which is driven into that tree. That remained into my mind a lot of times. When we walk, I mean, even today, if you drive down the highway and go from via Nirmal, you will still about half a meter inside from both sides, you will see those trees marked even today. In the same exact way that I've marked them on the road. There is a red dot or a yellow dot and a nail driven through it. So for me, the aspect was that that nail has gone into my forest deity that I speak to when I walk into Mollem. That same deity which resided into this village which was abandoned. That ring road, which basically from where I would see the sun and that flame red, which I see at sunset. So, this whole work aspect came out of there. That this forest deity was marked, and I've said in my words that it was about 18 moons ago, which is basically, roughly about 2 years or whatever. And 40,000 trees we know have been slated to be cut. And that's just the beginning. When something like this happens, there is, a cascading effect on a whole lot of forests. And one of the first thing that comes out, of course, is whether it is red in color or whatever, is blood. And that was why I used the red color. So it is, I think, my way of speaking through, to that round stone. I also used, I always work with old millstones or grinding stones. And here I chose a grinding stone piece because that is where food diversity comes from. Mollem for us also provides food to a whole lot of humans as well as wildlife. And I think that is very important for us to know, whether you are, staying in an urban landscape or whether you are staying right beside a village in the Dudhsagar, near the Dudhsagar waterfalls. Every single person will be impacted if there is an impact on the Mollem National Park. And this basically is very important for all of us to know. So that's a little bit about my work.
Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, it was really nice to understand the context. And like you said, blood, and there was, I think, that poem which had Rakt, yes, blood,
yeah.
Rakt. The whole idea of this grief, this ecological grief,
Yeah.
as we are sort of forming it now.
It's real.
It is something that's really penetrating. I mean, it has to penetrate.
Yes.
And then when it penetrates enough is when we, there is nothing to do but get out there and do what we can. So I think that in many ways, this a lot of what the artists have done, the participants have done, is extremely inspiring. But as you said, Apurva, what Amchi Mole group is doing, Swabu, Nishant, so many other people, Nandini, I think that what they're doing every day with their time, with the kind of work that they're putting in and energy, it is a contribution, I think, to our entire society, to our culture, to our entire existence. No, so I think that it's quite amazing. We've actually, crossed now the 45-minute point. But what I'd like to all of you now, is what is something that was most memorable about this entire experience of the residency? And the second thing is, what are the things that we can talk to children about? Because I always feel, going back to education, going back to looking at young children and what they can learn and what they can do. So these are the two parts that I'd like to ask you now. Starting with you, maybe, Shreya, what what was something that really touched you in this entire process? It could be some other person's work or some discussion. And what can we do to sort of touch children at this point of time so that they're looking at something as they grow up?
There was such a suite of inspiration that Apurva laid out that it was overwhelming on many levels. So there was a internal paring down, like emotionally, even physically, of choices of materials, which I found very liberating in a way, because usually one is surrounded, this is even in context to the children, you're surrounded by so much that you don't really hook into anything, because it's just like a current, or maybe easy come easy go, or it's just too much. The materialness of life, or just how hectic our lives are supposed to be for us to feel like productive. You know, it's everything is on a hyped level. So,
Yes.
so the kind of inspiration he gave us was really like an avalanche. So paring that down, seeing through it, and to hook in, I think that could be something that we can all learn to simplify our lives in this. It is chaotic, but if we don't lead simpler lives, we can't we won't be meaningful, because it's just like, otherwise you're dashing from one small thing to the other, and there's just so much around us all the time to distract us or to motivate us, but the flow is really super fast. You know, in the last few years, it's like current is picking up. So for me, it was just stripping bare to understand that, yes, I'm surrounded in so much, but there is a center that I have to hang on to feel sane. I learned that at this residency. Very, very grateful for that, because it was internal, external. It was the same thing going on, you know. There was a data overload, emotional overload, you know, COVID also. And work was also like, it was truly a feat. What he did, he put that documentation together for his presentation was really impressive. So yeah, paring down, I think basically simplifying life for one's own self. One has to find one's own ground of what is simple living. But if that's an aspiration, then I think the children stand a good chance. Simplifying life. Challenging, but necessary. Yeah.
Yeah. So to you, Apurva.
Yeah. Nirmal?
What was your takeaway from this entire thing? Maybe not one, but several.
Okay. You know, before I say that, I just want to quickly say one thing. Is that earlier, I'm grateful that you felt that the texts which accompanied the works were very relevant also. You know what we do as people, you know, Leena? We generally tend to, when we hold these exhibitions, we tend to interpret and we put the words in there, right? This time I decided, beyond the introductory text, which people only actually need to tap to read it, it's hidden on the main page. All the thumbnails are there. Only if you tap something there, all the text rolls down. My website designer and I, right from the last exhibition onwards, have deliberately done that, because we want the visuals, we want the art to do it, and in this to grab our attention, to take it forward. You know, the curator is just like a director; he should be behind the scenes. And in this case, what I did was, I said I'm not going to write a thing on the artist's work. So I encouraged them to find quotations which were analogous to what they were doing, maybe contrast even, maybe juggle with a few things. And they came up with a wonderful array of relevant texts from Sant Tukaram, Milan Kundera, and everything in between. I mean, I couldn't do better than that. I would be wrong in trying to interpret that. Maybe I would bring in these poetic and literary references, maybe not. But for the artists, especially in a project like this, to not only put their own artwork out, but also the text which they vibe with, which inherently wells from deep in it, deep underneath. That's all counts for, you know. So, coming back to what you asked, memorable is whenever any artist says, and Shrayragi said it earlier, in response to the spirit of Mollem, what she did. She said that this is something very unlike what she has done before.
Right.
For me, that's music to my ears. That's memorable for me. And I have heard this in the residency, the last residency I did. I've heard this in this residency. Not all artists say it. Not all artists need to say it. It's something which wells. But that means they have been able to come out, dig so deep, and excavate, uncover something which is so fundamental that it can be as it is for now, or it can be the seed sprouts and into new beginnings. Like one artist said, she told me in this residency, she said, it can lead me to new things. Once he said that actually. And there has been a fundamental shift, a tectonic shift, if you will, of your thinking. For me, that's my takeaway. That's what I like. Maybe it may not happen immediately. It need not.
Yeah.
It depends. I like when that happens.
That's beautiful. Yes, I know. As a curator, I also get absolutely thrilled when something like that happens. That means there's some meaningful exchange, and that osmosis and that sharing is going to that much of a deeper level. So that's beautiful, Apurva. Nirmal, to ask you then about the same thing.
A couple of things were memorable. One of them actually was we had, and I say we because I think me and Asavari were the only two people, husband and wife, who were part of the, I don't know if there was anyone else who are staying in the same house. And after the whole thing was over, speaking about, Mollem in a different way. And we kept doing that for the entire period that his residency was on. To have spoken on one subject besides science and data stuff and art on Mollem itself with her was quite an experience after a long time actually, especially again during these times. So that I think is a memory that I will always treasure. The other aspect was I was very happy to share space with other artists and speak, because I don't get that much of time to dedicate to art or as much as I would love to, because I've chosen a different stream as of now, and that is science. But in order to connect, in order to get to see people who are listen, probably be awed at, was really good, and that is something that I really take away from. As far as speaking about children and what they want to do, I will just share one thing, which I think every person, whether child or adult, should know, is that Mollem National Park, Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuary, like other forests, have something which is called beat guards. Every forest is guarded by a beat guard. And above the beat guard, there is a forest guard. These are our ground protectors in every forest in India.
Okay.
I look at it this way now. All of us have become beat guards. Our beats are our heartbeats here. Every single beat now is the heartbeat that we have. And the forest guards are, of course, all our forest guards. I mean, everybody who is there in Goa, who's not, I mean, he or she might have just pressed that one button in a signature campaign, if nothing else, taken that thing on an email and said, this is what I can do. And those are now my forest guards. I think if every child or adult can do that, be a beat guard for Mollem and be a forest guard, I mean, we've really reached on where we want to reach. Thank you. I mean, that's all what I want to say.
That's beautiful.
Really, I mean, that's something that we should use.
Yeah. It ties in with the prompt which a journalist asked me, she just this morning, Aarti actually. Aarti Das, she asked me, why did you give a prompt doll? Thing. Okay. I said, of course, there's a whole history. It's right from funeral and fetish and spirit dolls, to our basic understanding of, or a misunderstanding of the so-called voodoo doll, and of course the Barbie and the action figures. All that is there. But I thought to myself, just like I gave one of the prompts in the residency was that of the tree, the world tree, and its ubiquity again cultures. The doll also is similar, and it is something which we immediately is very anthropomorphic, which we project automatically. That's why dolls are so popular with children, and we also pray to sculptural gods and deities and all that. I mean, let me not get into that, but the doll is something which is there. And then I said, exactly, I mean, somewhat similar to what Nirmal was suggesting, that we automatically, when we create these little dolls, we are projecting, we become them, they become us. We are then, each one of us becoming the guardian. The Dyatsas, the Vetars, the Rakhundars, I'm not saying it were right, maybe that term, the protectors or the guardianship. That means we are saying this is our forest too, I may be from anywhere across the world. I may have pressed a button to sign a pledge. I may have made a doll, or I may have protested on the street. But we are all in this together. So, yeah, I mean, what you've said is so beautiful, Nirmal. So fun to what we
Thank you.
I'm a happy beat god.
Yes, that's
Yeah, I think definitely we all need to be that, and it's just a very beautiful thought to take away. And I hope all those who are listening and who will listen to this also will, take those words and sort of take them forward in many different ways. I think Apurva, you also used the word healing in terms of the mandala itself in your text.
yes.
And I think that there's nothing more important right now.
Absolutely.
In terms of being able to look in ourselves. We need to heal, and so we will be able to also look at healing in the world around us.
Yeah.
I think at so many different levels.
Yeah.
And healing, I think, is something that we can share with each other also.
Yeah.
Whether we are meeting physically or not, or across these virtual spaces. I think that healing is something that I took away from also the text and so many of the works that were there.
Thanks.
So, on that note, I'd like to say thank you all so much for giving your time for this conversation. And it's been beautiful. It's been so nice to hear what you say. And I look forward to meeting in physical space sometime soon. But in the meantime, for healing, thank you so much for being here. And for the audience as well, thank you so much for spending this time.
Thank you.
And if anyone has any closing comments or thoughts, then I'd really open it to you.
Yeah.
Apurva,
No,
something to say to close?
It has been a sheer privilege to be hosted by you and bring this to, yet another podium, something which I have not explored before. I think we need to go all out, all guns blazing, to use a bad metaphor, over here. But we need to do that. So I'm thankful to you, Lina, very much. It's a privilege.
Thank you so much, Apurva. Thank you, Nirmal and Shreya.
Thanks a
See you
lot.
soon. And
Yeah.
Thank you.
good night.
Thanks.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.